Hello guys, welcome to the second video on our free TOEFL online tutorial series. Today we'll be dealing with TOEFL IBT speaking. I'm Srivanshu, and without further ado, let's get into our session today. Um, I have seven agendas that I'll be covering today when we discuss about the TOEFL IBT speaking. So today I'll try to first start with not with a test format, but I'll try to start with speaking question design and question types. And once we finish this part, then we will move on to the first part, which is TOEFL IBT speaking test format. And after that, I'll be getting into TOEFL IBT speaking rubrics. And after that, I'll be getting into language components to improve each rubrics, right? And the reason why I do this is I think you guys are already aware that, for TOEFL IBT writing and speaking, the ETS or the TOEFL IBT tests, they make, the criteria, the rubrics public, right? Which gives you details on what are the different criteria that they use to assess your writing. So in this case, since we're talking about speaking, I'll also try to get into the TOEFL IBT speaking rubrics. And once we understand the rubrics, then we'll look at the language component, English language components that we can focus on to improve those individual rubrics so that you increase the score for each rubric and thereby improve your TOEFL IBT speaking score, right? After that, I'll be covering a process to improve your speaking also. So at last in our last video, I also covered, right. I also covered when I was explaining about TOEFL IBT. I also covered a particular process called the OIR model, right? The imitate, repeat, and sorry, the observe OIR, observe, imitate, and repeat model. So I'll also introduce the OIR and how to use them to improve your speaking, in your everyday life. So, and then I'll be ending today's session by talking about specific strategy, right? So, uh, what strategies to use for your integrated part of your test, and the strategy for the independent part of your test. So this is what I've been doing. But for today, what I've tried also doing is I tried to divide these agendas into smaller videos. So I tried to put speaking, question design, and question types into and TOEFL IBT speaking test format into one video, and try to put TOEFL IBT speaking rubrics and language components to improve each rubrics into second video, and in the third video I've tried to put the process to improve your speaking and the strategies, right? I put it in the third video. So those video I'll be uploading, and please make sure that you watch the video in this sequence so that it makes sense. Okay, so if you guys are clear about it, then we'll get into the first part, of our speaking today. Before I go into the test format, I wanted to directly go into the speaking question design and question type, because I think if you know about the question design and question types that they, set for you in a TOEFL IBT speaking, then I think it becomes easier to understand the TOEFL IBT speaking test format later on, right? So that's why let's get into the different question design and question type. Now, what do you need to understand, when it comes to TOEFL IBT, like I mentioned in the previous video, is the fact that TOEFL IBT tries to measure your ability to speak English in academics. Now, academics can be loosely translated into a situation, let's say, you're studying a particular subject at a university. So what kinds of language, do you have to use, right? Now, to when we talk about the speaking test, what kinds of speaking, do you have to do when you're studying at a university? So that's the basic question that you ask. And the TOEFL IB in the TOEFL IBT speaking, those kinds of language are divided into two kinds, right? I mean, when it comes to speaking, if you're studying at a university where English is spoken as first language, not just, sitting in the class and listening to the lecture, you'd also have to meet people from different background, right? So hence, the questions that are given to you for TOEFL IBT speaking test cover both academic and non-academic. When you talk about the academic part, you might have to, you know, uh, read passages and listen to lecture on academic topic and concept. So the academic topic or concepts can be from any, subject, right? It might be from physics, it might be from chemistry, it might be from biology, it might be from sociology, it might be from psychology, it might be from geography, right? Any topic. But please remember that the 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 content that you'll be dealing with will not be very, very, very difficult, or very, it won't be specialized, right? um, it would be something that somebody at an undergraduate or a graduate level can easily understand. Okay, so yeah, but when we talk about the academic, you might have to read passages, and then you might have to listen to lectures on academic topics. Okay. And usually when we deal with academic topics, the reason why they give you that particular question is to check whether you can synthesize information and summarize information that you have just listened to. So when you talk about academic, questions, you either have to listen to a lecture or a passage, right? So usually the task given to you is to synthesize information that you have read and the information that you have listened in a lecture. And the other, the other task that is given to you is to summarize what you have read and also what you have listened in the lecture. So information synthesis and summarizing is the main purpose for, for giving you guys the academic topic or a concept. Okay, so please remember that. Now, when we are at a university and studying a subject, we just don't get into academics alone, right? We also have to talk with other people from different culture, background, and all. So, hence, in the TOEFL IBT speaking, they also have a component, where they ask you to speak on a non-academic, scenarios, right? And usually, it's to do with a campus situation. A campus situation means the kinds of situation that you get into when you study at a particular university. So for example, the university might have, uploaded an announcement on the university website, and now, let's say, um, two people are discussing on whether that particular announcement is good or bad, and they're sharing their opinions and all, right? So this is one scenario that they give you, right? The conversation. So of course, when we talk about here, usually here we deal with lecture. Now when we talk about non-academic, usually we deal with conversations. Okay, and the lecture here is on academic topic, and the conversation here is on a campus situation, campus situations, right? And and when we deal with non-academic, usually it is to you know, is to elicit opinions, right? Check how you are sharing your opinions when you're speaking. How are you expressing your opinions? And the other thing is to check how you combine information together, right? So this is the different kinds of question that you get, right? The question design and question types. The question design is based on the fact that the different situation that you get into when you study at a particular university. So by virtue of, by virtue of being in a university, for example, you might have to use English academically and also non-academically. So for TOEFL IBT speaking, they give you this different scenario, okay? Different scenario, and usually the scenarios are either a conversation, right, on a campus situation, right, or a lecture when they talk about the integrated part. Okay, now when they talk about the independent part, they're just directly a question and usually related to an opinion. Okay, so with that done, with that background, now I think we can go to the TOEFL IBT speaking format. Now this will make more sense for us. Now you guys know that when you sit for the TOEFL IBT speaking test, the speaking test will last for 17 minutes, right? It will last for 17 minutes, and you have to complete four tasks: task one, task two, task three, and task four. Now, task one is the only independent part. Independent. Rest all the other three tasks are integrated. Rest all three are integrated. What do we mean by independent and integrated? From our last class on TOEFL IBT writing, we talked about independent component of the test. As you're directly given a question, and then you need to answer the question. Now, when they talk about the integrated, um now in this case, since we're talking about speaking, you just don't speak on a given question, right? You first have to listen, or you might have to read, or both, right? And then talk, right? And when you do that, then we call it as integrated, right? So in TOEFL IBT speaking, there are three tasks that are integrated and one task that are independent. Now, if we think about it, in our last class, when they talk about the TOEFL IBT writing, right? In writing, we had to complete two tasks. Task one was integrated, right? Where you had to read, listen to a particular topic, and then write an essay. And then task two was your independent, where the questions were on opinions and choice, preferences and choice, and then you had to write an argumentative essay. So it's very similar in your speaking also. The only thing is that there are three integrated parts. So in the case of speaking, task one is independent, and task two, task three, and task four are all integrated. So let's look at each task one by one now. So when you sit for the task one of your TOEFL IBT speaking, you're sitting for the independent speaking task. Now, independent speaking task means you don't have to read or you don't have to listen to any lecture. You're directly given a question, right? You're directly given a question which might ask you to um, choose between two choice, right? Something like, do you prefer online class or face-to-face class? Using examples, state the reason why or something, right? Such questions, which is very close to the independent writing task, right? That we looked at in the writing part of our test. Um, so when you're given that question, right, then you get 15 seconds to prepare for it, and then you speak for 45 seconds. So you get 15 seconds to prepare, right? And then you get 40, and then you have to speak for 45 seconds. So this is, what task one involves. Now, when we talk about, see how it will look in an actual exam, at the end of the video, once I finish talking, I'll also show you guys the demo, or maybe show you guys how it actually looks in the real exam. Okay, so I'll do that in a video somewhere by the end of this particular session. Okay, but for now, you guys need to know that when they talk about the independent speaking test, you're directly given a question where you have to either make a choice or you need to state your preference. For that, you get 15 minutes to prepare, and then you have to speak for 45 seconds. Now, when you talk about the task 2 is independent, integrated. Task 2, task 3, and task 4 are all integrated, right? So in task 2, what you have to do is, the first thing that you have to do is you have to read a passage on campus related topic. So you have to first read a passage. So usually it's an announcement of a particular university or a particular place, okay? Which are related to campus. Let's say your university might be starting an evening class, right? So they might have an announcement for the evening class. And right after they give you the passage, after you finish, after they give you some time for you to read it, then they'll also play a conversation. They'll also play a conversation, and the conversation will be on the same topic, okay, where people will be discussing, whatever was there in the announcement. And most of the time, the people who are involved in the conversation will start giving their opinions on, good and bad things about the particular announcement. And now, then you are given a question, you know then you are given a question to summarize and combine information from the two sources. The purpose, that is given to you is to summarize and combine information. But the question might be something like, let's say you finish listening to a conversation on, let's say, a university starting an evening class. So if two people are having a conversation on it, let's say person A and person B, if person A says that, oh, it's a very bad idea, right, and then he gives some reason, the other person either agrees or disagrees with that particular person, right? So now they might ask you question, what was the opinion of person A, and what was the reason why he held that particular opinion. So such questions are given. So for the task 2, they'll be giving you 30 seconds to prepare, okay, and then you write some notes and try to, summarize and synthesize information from what you have read and from what you have listened to, and then, try to answer the given question. So you'll be getting 30 seconds to prepare. Once you have finished preparing, right, then you have to speak for 60 seconds. You have to speak for 60 seconds. So that's your task 2, TOEFL IBT speaking. Now, when we move on to task 3, it's same as task 2, but the only difference is that rather than listening to a, campus related topic, you actually listen to an academic topic, right? So in task 2, normally it is a conversation. No, you're told to listen to a conversation, but in task 3 you need to listen to a lecture, and it is on an academic topic. So that's the only difference, but it's the same task. Both are integrated, and in one's case, which is task 2, you listen to a conversation where people are sharing their opinion, and then you have to, summarize and combine information from the two sources and then answer the question in task 2. In the task 3, you read a particular passage, right, on an academic topic, then you listen to the lecture, and after that they'll be giving you a question related to the particular academic term of the concept, and by listening to the academic lecture, then you're given 30 seconds to prepare, and then you have to speak for 60 seconds. Everything is exactly the same as task 2. The only difference is, in task 3 you listen to an academic lecture. In task in task 3, I mean, in task 2 you listen to a conversation. So that's the only difference. And the difference is obvious, because in when we looked at the question design, the different situations that you get into the university, you don't listen to lecture every day, isn't it? You also might have to have conversation. So hence, that's the reason why they're giving you, such questions, right? um Moving on to task 4. Task 4 is also integrated, okay? But in task 4, you don't have to read anything. You directly have to listen to a lecture on an academic topic. So here also it's academic, okay? It is also academic. So you directly listen to a lecture on an academic topic, and once you have finished listening to a lecture, then they'll ask you a specific question, right? And usually the task that they are assigning is to summarize the lecture, right? And then you get 20 seconds to prepare for it, and then you speak for 60 seconds. So that is how the task 4 goes. So in terms of design of the question, when we talk about the task 1 is normally, conversational English. And task 1 and task 2, sorry. And task 3 and task 4, let me get rid of some of these things so that I can show you that relationship clearly. I don't want to rush, because it's very important for you guys to understand this. Okay, so see, when you sit for the task 1 and task 2, we're talking about conversational English, conversational language, right? Because these are not related to any academic topic. But task 3 and task 4 are academic language, because they deal with a particular academic topic, right? So this is um, how they have formatted the TOEFL IBT speaking test, right? So if so, I mean, this is it when it comes to TOEFL IBT speaking test format, and the speaking exam takes place for 17 minutes. I also wanted to mention that whenever you have to read, they give you a specific time, which might be, 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, 2 to 3 minutes. So usually, whenever you have to read, they they give you 2 to 3 minutes to read. Okay, and when it's a lecture, I mean, with lecture it's very easy to deal with, because a lecture, starts and ends, right? So there's no timer. When the lecture ends, it ends. So you are directly taken to the next window. Okay, so but the one thing I wanted to mention here is that you guys need to be aware of the transition. So transition from when you have to read, when you have to listen to a lecture, and then they'll have a beep, right? And then they'll give you the time to prepare. And then in the exam hall, they'll also be giving you some pen and paper in front of you to write some notes, right? So uh, you can write notes and prepare during that preparation time given to you. And then on a beep, then you have to start speaking. So yeah, so this is how the test happens. By the end, somewhere, by the end of somewhere in the towards the end of the video, I will try to show you guys, how it actually happens. Okay. This is the end of the first video. Please watch video number 2. You know, for 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 the remaining part of our TOEFL IBT speaking.